Okay, we've got the data in R. We brought in the data. Now let's do our clustering analysis. Let's do a K-means. Let's do a K-means analysis. And a K-means is where you decide how many clusters or how many groups, and then the model will choose which customer will go into which group. What we did in Excel, I think, is that we chose 4. I'm just for grins, I'll make it 3. It doesn't have to be, well, we'll leave it at 3, but it doesn't have to be. So now we're going to use this command, KCluster. And after I do that, you can actually see what the results are. And if you see what happens, each customer is now put into one of these 3 clusters. And this gives you the centroid or the middle for each cluster. So you can see that for athletic, clearly that's cluster 2 is the one where it's the largest. Cluster 1 and cluster 3 are small, but cluster 2 is really what identifies, it looks like cluster 2 is primarily people who buy athletic stuff. And you can see that cluster 1 is primarily people who buy dress stuff. And customer 3, or cluster 3, is people, looks like it's everything else. So you can see the type of customer. Customer 1 is in cluster 2, customer 2 is in cluster 3, and all of those all the way down to customer 250. Well, you can also draw a picture of this. And you got to first hit this require cluster, and this brings in a package that's already part of it, but you do this, and then this will plot these 3 clusters. And notice if you call this K cluster, this is the data frame that put it in, that's what has to go in front of the $sign. So there you go. So you can see that this is cluster 1 is the red, and these are the customers that are in it. And customer 2 is the pink. And this is cluster 2. And then cluster 3. So cluster 2, if you remember, was primarily the athletic. So it looks like cluster 2, which is using my picture, these are the people who buy athletic shoes. These overlap quite a bit. So you could almost probably get down to just 2 clusters where you got this group of people and this group of people. So let's go do that real quick. Let's go back to R. And grab this command. But this time we're only going to have 2 clusters. Now let's run that plot. Let's run that plot. And now you can see we've got these people that buy athletic wear, and then on this group of everything else. So that might be a better way to segment your customers. Okay, that's a cluster analysis using R. Thanks.